You're the God of this city.
Hey, I'm Brad Wilson, teaching pastor and missions pastor at Christ Church, and I'm just excited to share with you our experience. Our mission statement is redeeming us back to God, but sometimes I think we ask the question or we wonder, what's it look like to redeem us back to God? For us, it started our first day. We went to this community and partnered with Pastor Rafaelito in Monterrey, and it started with us painting houses, and the kids kept coming out and just looking at our group as we painted and we talked with the kids and we loved on the kids. It really built up that week, and one of the crazy things that happened was a family came up and asked, hey, would you paint our house? And they don't have anything to do with Pastor Rafaelito's church, and we went back a couple of days, we painted that house, and it really opened up this avenue for Pastor Rafaelito to minister to this family, to spend some time with them, and to get them in the church. That's how redemption takes place. Sometimes we think redemption happens on Sundays, but redemption really happens throughout the week. Each and every day when we engage our community, when we engage people, it doesn't matter if we know them, it doesn't matter what our relationship is, but engaging them and being intentional about getting to know them, about being a part of their life, and about just sharing the love of Christ with them. And that's what happened this week for our team. And for us, it was such a transformational experience because we didn't talk about redemption, we didn't talk about redeeming, but we were able to do that and help plant some seeds so the churches down here can water them, and we can take the experiences we had this week back with us to Mason and do the same thing in our community.
Are you ready to experience a meaningful time of praise and worship? Are you ready to engage in prayer and powerful Bible teaching? Then welcome to CC Live, which starts right now.
Hi! It's us, the Sanders.
Hi.
Jim and Joanna.
I'm Joanna.
Now, I know you opened the door and you went, uh-oh, it's those nosy neighbors.
Nosy neighbors.
But we're not
We're
nosy.
not.
Well, kind of we are.
Maybe.
Here's the deal. A lot of times throughout the years, we've knocked on your door and said, hey, what can we do for you?
Yeah.
You know, because that's the type of people we are.
I know.
But this time we're going to kind of turn the tables
Flip-flop.
and ask you what you can do for us.
Yeah.
Hey, hold the phones. You see, we'll just cut to the quick, okay? We have no money. We're broke.
We got nothing.
Yeah, zippo zilkus.
Nada.
Bupkis. You see, what we've done is we've taken the Happy Train to Credit Town,
Woo, woo.
and we've been having so much fun. We are up to dead in our eyeballs.
Over our heads.
So we need your help.
Yeah.
Okay. I know what you're thinking. Hey, aren't you believers? And we are.
We are.
We love the Lord.
So much.
But we've been loving the world.
Woo!
You guys have some great stuff out there.
Really do.
And our house is proof. We got so many gizmos and gadgets. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Woo!
And we ain't about to give them up.
Nope.
Okay, so here's what we've decided to do.
Yeah.
We have proposed a bailout package for you to help us out with. What do you say?
Yeah.
Oh,
hang
hey, Senator, hold on there, okay? You see, we need your help because we are scared.
Yeah, we're so stressed out. We got creditors nipping at our heels like a duck on a June bug.
She's got a way with words, and it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
We're so scared. We're like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
All right, Juno, that's enough.
Okay.
See, here's the deal. The Bible says in the book of Malachi.
That's Malachi.
Whatever. It says, God says, hey, test me with your money. Bring all your tithe into the storehouse. And I'll just be honest with you. I failed every test. And my storehouse is about to have a pool.
Woo!
We are so excited. And we ain't getting rid of that.
Nope.
So what do you say? Can you help us? We've earmarked this rescue plan.
Oh,
Hey. It's good stuff.
It's win-win.
Come on. Okay, at least just give us some flowers.
Can we have some flour? Oh, hey, our son's birthday is this weekend. You could just take that flour and make us a whole cake.
What do you say, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's a fine howdy do.
I know.
Well, I guess it's back to the house to do a revision on the rescue plan.
Well, we gotta hurry. I got a manicure in 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, what is up, CC
How you
Live?
doing?
Hey, man,
That's a new thing.
Hey, we are live on the internet.
We're live, people.
Hey, I'm looking inside of. You are on Facebook and YouTube. I'm on Facebook. Man, I've got friends from Utah, like Sammy Bowden. I see you in here. Man, I've got friends from Texas in here. We've got people from Mason, Ohio, in here. Obviously, because we live in Mason. But man, this is awesome. So
This is awesome. I like this. It has been a while. I think I remember the very first time we did a live one like this was to introduce the concept of
CC
church.
Live. Yeah. Of talking about what this is. And so, man, we are watching the chat room right now, but we also want to be intent on you. So, Joey, just so you know, I don't think people would know this, but man, Joey's been homesick for like the last day and a half, and he's drinking tea and got throat lozenges, and I'm just trying to like not get whatever is going on with him. Nope, don't touch me, get off me. But you're going to kind of guide a conversation tonight, and tell everybody what this is kind of about.
So we've been on a sermon series called Story Over Stuff.
Yeah,
so
S.O.S.
It's about finances.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, let's just take a moment and let's just talk about money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Let's be very informal, very casual. So I wish you could see my desk. There
is stuff everywhere.
There's stuff everywhere.
Hey, before you get into this, do us a favor. If you're on Facebook Live right now, if you're on YouTube or you're on our online page, do us a favor. If you got questions, you can ask questions. And as we see those pop up live, we will, like, I've got some stuff going on here that I see. And so if you got questions or comments or want us to clarify something, let us know. We can do that in real time.
Absolutely. So this is going to be very casual. We're just going to have a conversation. And we want you to join us on this conversation. So like Trevor said, go on Facebook Live. Make sure to, if you have questions, comments, opinion, make sure to share. Let everybody know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Invite people to join you on this. And like I said, I got a lot of paperwork. So I apologize for don't keep my eyes on camera all the time.
Yeah, we're going to be, because we also want to try to interact as well. So
yes. So let's start talking about finances. I think one of the things we learned right off the first weekends, it was about the decisions that we make.
Right.
We make decisions every day, and we make decisions with money more than I think anything else.
Yes, absolutely.
So Trevor, what's the impact of the decisions that we make with money in the long term?
Well, you can make a decision 10 years ago that may impact you today. And I if you weren't here week one, I actually shared personal story, right? I made what I would argue is probably the most foolish financial decision I think I've ever made. And I pride myself, my family prides itself. We don't make really poor financial decisions, but I co-signed on a loan for somebody. And then 15 years later, fast forward, he had only been making minimum payments, and then he stopped making payments altogether. And for my family, it became, honestly, became a $26,000 lesson of what not to do. And so, but it was literally almost 15 years later before that bad decision came back to bite me. And so, I mean, those decisions, they impact, but here's the other thing. You can make a bunch of good decisions right now that are also going to impact the future as well. So it's not just the bad ones that affect it, it's the good ones that affect it too.
Again, we make decisions every day, right? So,
right.
It comes down to, are we making good decisions or bad decisions?
Yeah.
And when it comes to money, we always want to make sure that good decisions are being made.
Yeah, absolutely. The best to our ability, right? And this is why we do stuff like this. This is why we do a series like this. This is why we have Financial Peace University, which, by the way, we got online. Yeah. How many people are in the online?
We've got over 20 people.
Over 20 people are on a Zoom call doing FPU online. We've got it going live here on our campus in person. And the reason we do things like that is because so many people in our country, in our context, are struggling financially. And it's not because they're not making enough money. It's because they're not making smart enough financial decisions with their money.
So we talk about the long term. What's the impact of the financial decisions that we make for our legacy. Like, what legacy do we live? And I hope there's a lot of young people watching.
Yeah.
Because that's a great question. That's something they should be thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I'm too young to think about the legacy, but when it comes to money, some decisions are not short term; they're always long term.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to get this stat completely right, but it's close. Is that, and I can't remember how much it is, but if you I think it's like, I don't know, I'm going to make up a number because I don't have an exact number, right? But say you put $500 away when you start your first job in your early 20s, right? Your first like out of college job or into the workforce job, and you're able to put $100 a week away. And again, this number is not absolutely correct, but if you put it in something that's gaining a little interest, by the time you're 40, you're going to have close to $1 million saved. And that sounds crazy when you're 20, right? It's like 40 is so far away. I thought that when I was 22. Well, I'm 40 now, and 40 doesn't seem so far away.
No, it doesn't.
It's like, as it's here. And now what's crazy, at 40, I'm looking at 65 thinking, gosh, that's forever from now. It's not.
Yeah.
That comes before you know it. And I want to set my family up, and I want to set myself up, and I want to set our church up, and I want to set you up to be able to look long-term generosity and long-term legacy. Because like we said at the beginning of this series, and like we've talked about, I've never met a single person who goes, man, I just don't want to be more generous. Everybody I know wants to be more generous, but they always give the caveat, I just don't know how right now because I don't have enough money.
When you talk about being more generous, what that looks like?
Well, I think like for my family, I'll use my family as an example. We've made a goal as my wife and I that we want to give as much away as we can for the kingdom. So when we got married, it was no question asked. One of the first things we talked about before we got engaged even was, what's our views on money in the church? Both of us were like, day one, we tithe. That's 10% of whatever we make off the top. We're not giving leftovers. The first check we write is our tithe check, right? And our goal is we don't want to just give a tithe. We want to give an offering. We want to give above and beyond that. So right now, we're somewhere in the neighborhood of like 24% of our income goes to the church. My goal is eventually that I could give 100% back to the church and not even take a paycheck. I just find other ways to make money. And we get closer to that every year. But then inside of that, here's what's crazy is what God does with that is the opportunities that I now get in other areas. So we adopted a compassion child. So we've gone through 3 compassion kids. We've actually, I can't believe I'm old enough to have actually graduated 3 compassion kids. We're on our 3rd kid right now, a little girl in Kenya. No, I take that back, in Uganda. And so we're able to do that. We support a ministry called She Dances down in Guatemala, and we're able to support that. And then when friends come with a need, if we've had people that we're friends with, they'll come and go, we don't know how we're going to pay our electric bill this month, or I don't know how our water's about to get shut off. We can then make a generosity decision as a family to go, oh, we can help with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not even the big things. It's the little things. Like, I know people all the time are like, well, you shouldn't give homeless people money. First of all, that's not my call to decide what they do with it. But if I'm walking around and I've got extra 25, 30, 40, 50 bucks in my pocket, I would much rather have a conversation with somebody that's down and out. And maybe it's the one conversation that will turn them around. And 40 bucks may not be a lot to me today, but it's a lot to them. And it's just the little everyday things of generosity that you can do. Taking someone to lunch, or taking care of someone's meal, or paying for somebody's groceries in the line at Walmart without them expecting it. There's just things we can do on a daily basis to be more generous. And a lot of us feel like, oh gosh, I don't have any margin to do that.
So just going to answer a question from Kara. She asked on Facebook if teenagers can attend FBU. And I think yes.
I would highly encourage that. Yeah.
Yes, I would encourage you to do it. We have some young people taking the online class.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, Carrie, you should consider that and have them take the class.
I think the earlier the better when it comes to learning to manage money. I'm going to use an example of this coming Sunday, so a little preview for you guys. I remember my first paycheck I brought home from my first actual went and got a job, and my dad sat me down and he put 10 dimes on the table, and he literally just gave me a lesson in generosity. He said, son, this dime right here, the very first dime, that goes to church. This second dime goes into savings. These other 8 dimes, do whatever you would like to do with those. He says, and just remember, if you save and you give to God, these eight dimes actually, they turn into more.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy, but I've said this a lot. God math doesn't make sense. But I believe if you commit to God first you commit to putting something away. If you can't live off of 80% of your income, you're living above your means. That means you're buying a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need, or going and doing a whole bunch of things that you really don't need to be doing. When you've got 80% of this to live off of, we have more than we really think we've got.
So do you think part of that is culturally, we actually feel the pressure to buy things we don't need, to invest in things that doesn't need our money to be invested in? And do you think that's part of like showing off things that it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think there's a shift happening in that, but we live up until the last 5 or 6 years, we've lived in a very, very, and I'm not going to say we're not now, but a very consumeristic culture. And so, you've got friends that start buying houses, and they're buying nice houses and big houses, and they're furnishing them with all sorts of crazy stuff and buying new cars. And you start thinking, well, gosh, I got to do that. And if I don't do that, then I'm not making it in this world. And I just beg to differ. Now I think there's a whole generation coming now that's like, I don't want to be house poor. I don't want to be car poor. I laugh a little bit at the tiny house movement. It's like, I'll just drag my house everywhere. Which is, they make campers for that, by the way. You don't have to have a tiny house. You just buy a camper, right? But the reality is that I think there's a shift happening now where it's like people would rather invest in experiences instead of stuff. But that has a price tag too. You know what I'm saying? And so I think you've just got to be smart with, like, this is what I appreciate about my parents. My mom and dad have never lived ostentatiously. They've never lived above their means. So they bought a house back in 1990. I think it was like $79,000. They're still in that house. And some of our guys on staff have been there, and they've added on a little bit, but it's completely paid for. And all their friends were buying bigger and better and more. And then 2008 hit. And the economy tanked.
There you go.
And their friends were losing their houses, and their friends were losing their cars, and because their friends didn't put anything away. They just kept stockpiling their storehouses with stuff. And when the economy tanked, my mom and dad were fine. They put money away. They didn't live above their means. The only thing outside of coming to see their son and daughter-in-law and their grandkids is that my dad plays golf and my mom gets her hair done.
So is there is there anything wrong with making money?
No.
Making a lot of money?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The making of money is not where we go wrong. It's what we do with the money that we have. It's the worship of that money. It's the other end of that spectrum is there's some of us that we make so much money we don't know what to do with it, but we hoard it. Like, I know some people that have more money than they know what to do with, and they hold on to it like this, like it owes them something, and they don't want to give it away, but they'll fill their life with a bunch of stuff, but they can't figure out why they're not happy. And you see it all the time, right?
Yeah.
You see people that have all this stuff, all this money, like they're not able to pay their bills, they're not living above their means. They're actually probably living within their means, but they just keep buying more and buying more. And so every time you go see them, they got a new car, they got a new toy, they've got a new this, they got a new that. They just added their 7th garage or whatever. And I'm not saying any of those things are wrong. All I'm saying is if those things are your driving force, you're trying to fill a void that's just not meant to be filled by the money.
So that's the bottom line, right? It's where my passion is.
Right.
Is my passion the money that I make?
Right.
Or actually my passion is for God, and the money that I make, it's honor him.
Well, I think the hard part, especially right for Christians, is getting our head around that money's not actually ours. The money I make's not mine. The money you make's not yours. The money you make is not yours. God is giving us an opportunity. He's investing in you. If you think of it like that, God's investing in you with the resources he's giving you to do something with that investment. And so for me, I want to make kingdom impact as a Christ follower. I want to just try to give it away, see what I can give away, because in the long run, none of this stuff is going to matter.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because that is something that's what end up consuming people, right? They get into it as a credit card. It's financing the car they cannot afford and all that. And so, I have a graphic that I want to show. So we did a little bit of research, and we look at just around here, our neighborhood in Mason.
Yeah, and how many mile radius?
We're looking at like 5 miles radius.
5 mile radius. It's on your screen right now. Should be coming up.
We're looking at around, just for you to have an idea, around 180,000 people. And for you to have an idea, there's almost 30% of this population they own, their debt is between $25,000 to $74,000. If you put together as above $75,000, we're talking about close to 50%. So 50% of the population 5 miles radius from us here have a high volume debt.
Yeah.
So it's really possible to get out of that. Like if they're watching right now, is it really possible?
Yeah, absolutely, it's possible. I've seen people get out of monumental amounts of debt.
What does it take to do it?
Commitment, a commitment to say I'm going to do this. I don't know about you, but I can usually figure out a way to do the things I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like we've talked about this on CC Live. Like you're back in the gym. I went back to the gym in November. You know what I've done? I've just made it a priority. It's not even an option. Can I tell you, the first week I was back in the gym, after day 3, I was like, I hate this. But you know what's funny? Here I am now, 66 days today, back in the gym, straight. 66 days back. You know what now is happening? I don't wake up and go, oh, this is miserable. I wake up and go, I got to get there. Now I'm seeing results. I'm seeing things happen. So I would tell you, take bite-sized chunks. Like, that's the Dave Ramsey principle, right, of FPU.
Yeah.
Start with the debt that you can get rid of the fastest. So maybe for you, it's a credit card of $3,000. Start knocking that thing down. Because one of the biggest detriments, I think, is we get these credit cards and we pay the minimum payments.
Now look at this by generation. So let's look at that number of debt by generation and take a look at it. So you have out of that, those numbers, almost 20%. They're almost pretty even between millennials, Gen X, and boomers. Meaning it's almost like across the line, every generation owns money.
Well, here's what's crazy though. What that tells me is now millennials are adults.
Yeah.
Gen Xers, that's me. So we're in our midlife, right? And boomers are on the retirement side. And here's what that says: is the millennials don't have quite as much as the Gen Xers, but they have as much as the boomers, which is funny, right? If you look at that graph, and the Gen Xers have the most right now. Why is that? Because we are now at the stage of life where we have the most money that we've probably had ever. Millennials are starting to have that, and boomers are now trying to figure out how do we hold on to it till we die. And so that's the old adage, right? The more money you have, usually, most people don't live below what money they have. They usually either live right up to the ceiling or they live above it.
Well, it's all about controlling.
Right.
So who controls the money in your life?
Yeah.
You know, it's God.
Yeah.
Or
you.
Or your own desires.
Right.
Right. And I think for people watching, I say this and I'm thinking, wow, it becomes so religious sound. Right? It becomes so religious, like, oh, God controls my money. But let's break down to people quickly what it means for God to control my money instead of my own desires. Let's just break that down a little bit.
Honestly, I think it takes all the stress off of money, because all you got to do is open up the Word of God, and He tells you, He's like, listen, hey, I want you to give your first fruits to the local church.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, give your first fruits, that 10%. And if you want to give above and beyond that, you're giving an offering, right? That's the basic teaching of Scripture. And I always want to give an offering. I don't know about you. I want to give an offering. I want to give more than the base requirement. Because people ask me this question. They're like, so do you give off the net or give off the gross? Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's a dumb question. So this is, I think Drew Sherman said this one time from a sermon pastor down at Compass where I used to work. He was like, well, do you want a gross blessing or a net blessing? And I really believe if you really give your money over to God, it takes the pressure off of what to do with your money. Because when you have a kingdom mindset, it gets really easy, really fast. You go, okay, I'm plugged into the local church, right? If you really believe in the mission of the local church, then you should give to your local church. Yeah. And I'm not saying that selfishly for us. There's a lot of people on here that don't go to our church. If you have a local church you go to, I'm telling you right now, you ought to give your 10% to that local church. Because I have people all the time go, well, I give my 10% to this parachurch organization. You know what? If you want to give above and beyond to parachurch organizations, I think that's great. I do it. I'm just saying, I think Scripture tells us that we should give first to the local church.
So here's what we're going to do. This is new in our broadcast. We're going to have a commercial break.
Commercial break.
But here's what we're going to do. I want to show you, the advantage of plugging into FPU. And you're going to see ways in this video for you to be encouraged. We're going to show you a few things. When we come back, we're going to talk about how much how many people are actually giving money to church?
Yeah.
We're going to look at some numbers. It may surprise you.
I love that. I'm excited.
Let's look at that.
Well, let's take this commercial
we'll
break. We'll be right back.
So, hey, Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Joey. How's it going today?
Doing good. So Todd, you're teaching Financial Peace University online. We just had your second meeting, right?
That's correct. It was a second lesson this past Sunday at 7 started.
And how many people are attending this class right now?
It was just over 20 people. Right?
Over 20 people.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit how the class works, because it's that's a new thing, right? Being able to do Financial Peace University, but online.
Yeah, it's the first time, to my knowledge, we're doing it through our church. The way we ended up doing our class was we'll have everybody watch the video lesson prior to the lesson. What we're doing at 7 is taking our time and going over the session questions at the end of each lesson. So it really allows us a lot of time to break down some of the discussion questions that sometimes you don't have the luxury to do in class from the time constraints. So it's been a great opportunity, great interaction. We've had some good questions. It's been good. I didn't know what to expect, but I've been pleasantly surprised.
That's awesome. And how does it work? People watch they watch together the lesson, or they watch before they come to the online experience with you?
What they're doing is everything is available online from day one. So both the video lessons and the material that's in the books, and as well as when you join the class, you get a book. You'll get a book that you can follow along with too. But what they're doing is prior to the class, you can watch it as many times as you want during the course of the week. They're watching the videos ahead of time, which typically they're run about an hour in length. So they'll watch the video ahead of time and be prepared to basically talk about the questions at the end of each lesson, what we're covering for the time that we need.
So Todd, you and I had an opportunity before to talk about, just to sit down, have a coffee, and talk about finances. And one of the things you said to me was very interesting. Is like if sometimes people go through this opportunity to just eliminate that. They get some money, some extra money, they eliminate it, but that's sometimes not even enough to stay out of that, right? It's a matter of behavior change.
It is. It's Ramsey talks about this in FPU and Financial Peace University. I say FPU, but he talks about it's an 80% behavior change, and 20% of this is really head knowledge and actual putting, just doing the math. So a lot of this is looking at the person in the mirror and changing your behavior. So 80% of that is on you to change your way.
So in your experience, if you could measure or give us some kind of a measurement, when you teach these classes, either online is the first time, but like in person, could you tell us what the rate of people, the success rate, when you see people like really changing their behavior, not just getting out of that, but change their behavior?
Sure. One thing that they do, they give us to measure how our class is doing. At the beginning of each class, they ask 3 questions, basically a level of indebtedness, of non-mortgage debt, and how many credit cards that you have. And there's one more question I can't remember off the top of my head, but it has you fill that out at the beginning of class. And at the end of class, at the end of your 9 weeks, what you do is you tally those numbers up as a class, as a whole, and see what impact you've had on those numbers. So what we do is, and it's always amazing to me, is in 9 weeks' time how people, and it's a way to measure this like you're talking about, it's always amazing to me the credit cards that people cut up. Right now, I think we have like in the mid-30s with credit cards in our class. We've got, like 20-some people. By the time this is whittled down to the end, I'll be surprised if that number is in the teens at that. So, you'll see numbers change like that. People cutting up credit cards, trying to get out of the debt, trying to get out the behaviors that got them into where they're at now, on top of non-mortgage debt. It's amazing what they can pay down in 9 weeks' time. So it really is cool to see that at the end of class. That's a way to gauge and measure how your individual class is.
That's awesome. So we're just in the second week of jumping to the third week of FP Online. We have a class starting right here in our Mason campus on the 26th. And we're going to offer another one online probably in April. So we're already looking in the spring and see how we can bring back FP Online. We're excited about that. We're excited about the opportunity to give people to from whatever they are, from where they are. I mean, you have people not only from Ohio, right? I mean, you have people from other states doing this.
We've got the Oklahoma campus that's doing this as well, so it's been fun having those folks, join us.
Yes.
Yes, it's been awesome having them.
Awesome. Well, Todd, thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for pouring out your gifts and investing into people's lives. I really appreciate that. We're looking forward to it. Looking forward to catch up with you later.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joey. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
We made bad financial decisions because we didn't have a plan. We were just kind of winging it. If you don't have a plan, you don't know what the goal is. You've got to have that goal. And that goal can be whatever you as an individual or we as a couple chose for our goal. And once you have that goal, you make a plan and then you stick to it, and you mishap and you make mistakes and you regroup and you redesign the plan. We redesign our plan every month for what's January going to look like.
Yeah, you have to. It's fluid because everything keeps coming up and keeps changing. So you have to have a basic plan, but make sure you can alter it and for those things that are coming up not expected.
And my plan was just to be less worried about my money and to figure out, really we kind of felt like we live in a nice area, we have a nice home, we make good incomes. We wanted to feel like we could give back more to the community, and how could we do that?
Right. We wanted to make sure we were in charge of our money and not the money in charge of us.
Right.
So by not having that plan, we were doing well. Like I said, we were saving, we were paying our bills, but we didn't have control of our money. So that plan really allowed us to take charge of that. Right?
And don't you feel now that we have that plan, we're in a much better spot than we were a year ago.
I feel much better about it.
Yes.
You're the God of this city.
Hey, I'm Brad Wilson, teaching pastor and missions pastor at Christ Church, and I'm just excited to share with you our experience. Our mission statement is redeeming us back to God, but sometimes I think we ask the question or we wonder, what's it look like to redeem us back to God? For us, it started our first day. We went to this community and partnered with Pastor Rafaelito in Monterrey, and it started with us painting houses, and the kids kept coming out and just looking at our group as we painted and we talked with the kids and we loved on the kids. It really built up that week, and one of the crazy things that happened was a family came up and asked, hey, would you paint our house? And they don't have anything to do with Pastor Rafaelito's church, and we went back a couple of days, we painted that house, and it really opened up this avenue for Pastor Rafaelito to minister to this family, to spend some time with them, and to get them in the church. That's how redemption takes place. Sometimes we think redemption happens on Sundays, but redemption really happens throughout the week. Each and every day when we engage our community, when we engage people, it doesn't matter if we know them, it doesn't matter what our relationship is, but engaging them and being intentional about getting to know them, about being a part of their life, and about just sharing the love of Christ with them. And that's what happened this week for our team. And for us, it was such a transformational experience because we didn't talk about redemption, we didn't talk about redeeming, but we were able to do that and help plant some seeds so the churches down here can water them, and we can take the experiences we had this week back with us to Mason and do the same thing in our community.
So,
We're
man, that was
back.
good stuff.
That was good. So, DR, there's a mission trip coming up. We want to encourage you to go. We want to see an online representation there from the online church.
Yeah, I think what would be really cool is I think where online ministry goes to a whole new level
Yeah.
is when you're on a mission trip with someone from another state that's a part of our church. Like I love like when they come here, but how much more beautiful is it if somebody goes
To go.
to Go Ministries?
Yes.
And let me parlay into our conversation because when you set yourself up to be in a space of generosity, the other thing is you can take yourself into places like this.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that's another thing. When you have margin, when a trip like Go Ministries comes up, and it's an affordable trip. It's a very affordable mission trip to go on. It's easy to get to, but the bang for your buck to go, no pun intended, to get down there, and then what actually goes to Go Ministries. This is what's crazy about Go. I'm heavily involved with Go. I'm on the board for Go. Right now, 90 cents off of every dollar goes back into the ministry. And so I don't know if you understand what that means. Most organizations, it's like 35% or 40%. 90% of the dollar goes back into the mission work that's going on. And what's happening there, ask anybody that's been, that video you just saw was of our people down there last year. Just ask anybody that's been down there. They will tell you it's life-changing, it's life-altering. And here's the other thing. We're planting 100 churches over 10 years down there as our church, of 1,000 that they're planting in Dominican, Haiti, Mongolia, and beyond. And when you free yourself up financially, like you could personally, as an individual, you could plant a church in the Dominican on your own or with a group of people pretty easily. And you think, how could we do that? Because it's not the United States. You're not planting a church here. You're planting a church in the Dominican, and you could, for as little as like $500, get in and help start that. And so again, margin for generosity.
I encourage you to just visit our website, ourchristchurch.com.
Yep.
To get more information about how to go on a mission trip. I encourage you to do that. Or if you're local here, you come here on the weekends on our Mason campus, just stop anywhere. Stop at Engage Wall and ask any questions you may have about the trip. So let's talk money. It's kind of interesting. As we did the survey, I want to share these numbers about how many people give money to church. And you look at this philanthropy graphic. First of all, in our area, people like to give money to church. I mean, it's a pretty good percentage.
Yeah, what is the percentage?
Else. It's like 12% of this population. But you can see in this graphic, the money is really, really spread out.
Yeah.
Meaning you can see it like between like children and health and veterans and
environment, animals.
So animals. I mean, people like to give.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing about this area. People like to give money. In finer ways. Tell me, what is the importance of, let's dive into the commitment to give to God. Mm-hmm. Like this is a conversation, people, that nobody likes to have. Right? Nobody likes to have. Nobody likes to have conversation about money, but they get by with it. Yeah. Here's the conversation nobody wants to talk about it. It's giving money to God. Yeah. They really don't. They don't like it. So we're going to talk about it.
Well, I think it's become taboo because of what corruption in churches in the past has done, right? Like I grew up in an era of televangelists that would say, we're going to heal you, send us your money, or send us your money and we're going to send you a vial of oil that will heal everything in your life. Or if you send me $500, God's going to give you $5,000. And I mean, they were just milking people for all they were worth. The importance of giving to God, like, listen, when you give to Christ Church, you're not writing a check to me or to you. Most people don't write checks. You're not giving money to us. You're giving money to the work of the kingdom. And so like I pride our church in, as we grow, that we give more away. Like my goal is that we can find ways in the next decade that we can do things as a church that every dollar comes in this door at some point will make its way right back out into local and global. Because all those things you show that people are giving to, the church should be driving all of those things.
I mean, just like here in our church, we have initiatives like Nine to Shine, and we have the mission trips, and we have resources available for the online church, and we We like the big campaign we had in December for Hunger to help local schools.
Yeah.
Right?
Feeding
And
kids
the
in our
feeding
local
kids in
schools.
local schools. I mean, so that's where the resources are going to. Let me ask you this direct question, since if you're gonna be religious about it. Giving back to God is simply as a matter of obedience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's what he calls us to, right? And here's what's funny. People, the two hangups people have are the two things Jesus called us to. One, to get baptized, which it cracks me up that people have a hang up about baptism, because I'm like, you understand, you're dying to an old self, raising to new life. Jesus says, do this. If he's completely wrong, you got wet, right?
Yeah.
If he's completely right, eternal life. The other one is, give me 1/10 of everything you have that you make. 1/10. He didn't ask for 100%. He said, give me 1/10. Give me 10%. Not 1/10. Give me 10%.
Yeah.
You know what I meant. Give me a tenth of everything you've got. And so I think for a lot of us, and here's why we get hung up on money, because we feel like, hey, I earned that. That's mine. That's mine. And God's like, nah, actually, I actually provided you with the gifts, the abilities, the talent, the creation of you to be able to do that. And I go back to that graphic that you had up a minute ago of where people give their money, right? I don't know if we
Let's
could put that back up. But if you look at all of those things where everybody gives, and you begin to look at how they give and what they give towards, right? As I look at this, there's animal arts, children, conservative, environment, health, humanitarian, liberal, religious, veterans, right? If the church were to actually give to the kingdom the way that they claim, the church should be driving all of those areas.
Yes.
The church should be driving healthcare, right? In fact, if you look at how hospitals were originally founded, the church is the one that founded hospitals, right? If you look at what's going on with healthcare, or you look at what's going on with the environment, I'm not telling you that I'm not the environmentalist, but I think we have a responsibility as the body of Christ to take care of the creation in which we live. All of these, like animals, I know that people will land blast this somewhere, I'm sure. But the reality is another creation of God's we are called to take care of. You just look at through the arts. The church was driving the arts in the early church. Now we become a cheap imitation of art, and we should be driving that. And when the church has resources, the church then affects culture in all of these areas. And so when we disseminate all of our resources out, and the church is just a byproduct of some of those, the church loses its effectiveness because its people don't give to the mission of the church, which could affect all of those things for greater good.
So let's tackle what I believe is the cause why money holds people back. Okay. And
why do you think so?
And I think that comes to these questions. And I remind you, listen, you can ask questions. Just go to the chat room
please
right now.
do. Actually,
ask questions.
Let me see. I got some stuff going on here.
We got a note there.
Yep.
Listen, I'm going to ask these questions. You probably heard them before, but let's talk about these questions a little bit. For the first one is, have you ever found yourself in a situation where your worry was controlling everything?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even talking about money. Just the fact that we worry about
Just worry. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. How many nights have you laid awake worrying about something?
Anything.
I've traveled with you. I know you lay awake because I lay awake, and I just wonder if we're both lying awake worrying about why we're laying awake. Right?
Exactly.
But honestly, for a lot of people, they lay awake at night wondering about their money.
Let me give a practical example. I think God called me to be a husband and a father, and one thing that He did not prepare me for is when a family member gets sick.
Yeah.
Because at the moment that one of my kids got fever or something, it looks serious, I don't feel like I'm structured enough to handle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you're not in control.
And the worst thing you can, or the best thing you can do is go to WebMD and figure out what's going on.
Oh, don't do that. That's a horrible idea.
And that really lays on the whole, now the worry is controlling everything.
Yeah.
I wanted people to understand how much worry can control your life.
Well,
what the Bible says about it.
Well, first of all, Jesus says, do not worry, because, right, we talked about this. Look at the birds of the sky, look at the flowers of the fields. They don't worry. They don't ask. They don't worry about any of those things. And yet, look how beautiful they are, and look how well taken care of they are. How much more will I take care of you? Right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times too, we think it needs versus wants. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But in all reality, I just know money is probably the number one worry most people have, because all of us need it in some regard. If you don't have enough of it, life is really hard, especially in our country in certain areas. And if you're trying to keep up with everybody else, it gets even harder. Here's what's crazy, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The people with the least tend to be the most generous. It makes no sense.
Now, there's a connection. One thing I have a hard time is being around negative people. I cannot be around negative people. Like it drives me crazy.
Well, I'm glad we're sitting next to each other, because I'm not a negative person either. So,
but is it possible that worry is what leads into you becoming a negative person?
Well, I think if you worry long enough, worry is not biblical. God does not call us to worry. He calls us to faithfulness. He doesn't say it's going to be easy. Like I read the Old Testament, right? I read Noah's building an ark, right?
Yeah.
There's not been rain in the way in which they're talking about, and he's do you wonder if he laid awake at night going, I think people think I'm crazy. Or I think of, Abraham taking Isaac up the mountain to sacrifice him because God told him to, and he's waited over 100 years for the son. And he's like, all right, I guess I'm going to go kill my son. But he didn't worry. He you know what he told Isaac? He goes, God will provide a way. And I think when we get in the mindset of God will provide, I met a woman on Sunday. I don't know if she'll be on here. She was at our 9:00 service on Sunday. She came out and she was it was funny because she yelled praise the Lord and amen a couple times during my sermon, which got me kind of fired up. So if you do that while I'm preaching, I'll probably get fired up. But she came out afterwards and she told me, she goes, I was that lady. And she goes, just so you know, I live in my van. And my gut instinct was, I got to do something. She was like, no, I'm fine. She goes, God keeps providing for me. I'm good. Now I'm sitting there going, you're living in your van. And she was like, God keeps taking care of me. I got food. I got clothes. I just went to church. I just got a cup of coffee. I just got a donut. I'm good. And I had this moment. I'm like, if I'm living in a van, not knowing where the next thing is going to come from, I'm worried. Mm-hmm. She's living in faithfulness. It's complete faithfulness. She's like, God's provided for me every day. I'm this close to starting a new job. I'm going to get back on my feet. Where I've met other people in the same position that they come in and they are a mess. They're like, I haven't slept in weeks. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation. I don't know what to do. I think that would be me. If you want to know the truth, I think I'd be the second guy. But she's living in complete faithfulness. And she was like, I know God is going to keep providing for what I need.
So Luke chapter 12,
yep,
verse 22 says, then turning to his disciples, Jesus said, that is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life.
Yeah.
Whether you have enough food to eat or enough clothes to wear. And I'm going to be honest with you, you better break this down because that just sounds crazy.
Well,
right?
Tell me what sounds crazy.
To not worry about everyday life. I mean, when you have a family.
I know, man. I got two daughters at home.
I know. So how you go by your day without a worry about stuff?
You know what? I don't know that I got a great answer for that because I've not mastered this. By the way, we don't come here as experts. We're here for a conversation. I don't know that I promise you I haven't mastered that. I got a daughter getting ready to get her driver's license. I'm worried. And I'm not worried in the funny haha. I'm worried. Like, I think through every horrible scenario in my mind. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if I could just protect her and I worry about that. I know I shouldn't. You can tell me I shouldn't, but I do, right? And then you start thinking about when my kids get sick. Like, my wife's a nurse. Thank God I've got a nurse in my house, and she's a really good nurse. But, man, when they start to get sick, like, I'm like you. I'm like, I don't like this. I'm not in control. Mm-hmm. And yet here's a scripture, Jesus saying, why are you worried about these things? Do you trust that I'm God? Do you trust I'm going to take care of? And here's what I've learned in my own life. I'm not sure there's moments where I trust. I'm not sure I actually trust when he tells me that. Not by the way I live my life, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Not by usually the way we live our life says we live a life that we don't believe God will do what he says he's going to do.
Sounds to me that's one thing left there is it is as I get closer to God, I develop a higher trust in him.
Right.
and that's the only thing I have to hold on to, right?
Well, I mean, think about relationship in general, right? You and I are friends. I'd say we're better than friends. We're like brothers.
Yeah.
Like we've done a lot of life together. I trust you. Like I fully trust you, right? And if you tell me you're going to do something, or the old stupid trust fall, back in the day. Now because we're friends, I probably wouldn't trust you with the trust fall. But if you literally if I'm hanging on for dear life for something, and you're like, Trev, just let go. I got you. Trust me. I would trust you enough to let go. If I didn't know you and you're like, let go, I'll catch you. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know about that. You got that accent and it sounds cute, but I don't trust you, right? There's something shifty about you. But the reality is, because we are close, I trust you. The closer you get to God, the more you trust that God will do what he says he's going to do. So if you're looking at God from afar, if you don't really know God, if you don't really have a relationship with him, or you claim that you love God, but you don't really know God, you don't have a personal relationship with him maybe you've been a Christian for 40 years and you worry every day. I would argue the closer you get, the more you trust that worry will dissipate. I met with a guy today. The guy's 60 years old, 61. And he came in and he was worried that he'd been baptized when he was 16, and he was worried that maybe his baptism, he needed to be rebaptized because he did some bad things after he was baptized. He was worried about going back and righting every wrong in his life and asking all these people for forgiveness. And I was like, bro, time out, man.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm just so anxious about this. I'm like, time out, man. You don't have to go back through all that stuff. Jesus covers that. Just keep getting closer to him. The closer you get to him, the less you worry about these things. The closer I am to Jesus, first of all, I begin to do the things he asked me to do. Right?
Yeah.
One of those being what we're talking about tonight. Give a tenth of my income to him. And it's not that he's like, pay some rent to me or you're out of the family. What he's saying is be obedient to me. It's not for him to get more. It's for him to see what our obedience looks like.
Okay, we're heading to the week 3 of S.O.S.
Yes.
Where we're heading to.
Well, that's a great question, Joey. Week 3 is, does money have me? Do I have my money, or does money have me, right? And we've heard that question asked before. I've heard it all over the place. We're actually going to go over to the book of Mark, chapter 10 this week. And I'll just read you kind of the first part of this, verse 17. It says, as Jesus was starting on his way to Jerusalem, a man came running up to him, knelt down, and he asked him, good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life, right? This is the rich young ruler, in case you're wondering. And Jesus asked, why do you call me good? Only God is good. And then they go through this thing. And so Jesus finally gets to the heart of the matter, and he says, okay, you want to know? Sell everything you have, give it to the poor, and follow me. Now, we read that. I'm going to do a lot of teaching on this on Sunday. We read that, and we think, so God just wants me to give all my money to the poor and follow him? How does that work? It's not what he was asking him to do. He knew what was vying for his heart was that his money was standing in the way of his relationship with God. His money was more important than his relationship with God. So when Jesus says to him, we have all these things in our life, right, that are barriers to God. For some people, money is not their barrier. I know people watching this, and there's people that are sitting in these seats behind us every week and online, that money is not their barrier. Their kids might be, their job might be, their circumstance might be. No matter what it is, Jesus is saying, okay, that's your thing that's keeping you from fully following me. Okay, then get rid of whatever this is and follow me.
Yeah.
Get close to me. And so we're going to talk about, does money have you, or do you have money? Because if you have money, money doesn't control you. If money has you, then you're always worried about your money.
Well, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great weekend. We're going to be here Sunday live at
Yes, we will not be dead. We will be live here on
live.
Sunday. I promise.
We'll work on it at 8:50 a.m. and 10:20 a.m. And if you're around here in Mason, just feel free to come and join us right here at our Mason campus. Man, I'm so glad we're able to do this together.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nicholas Ford.
Yeah.
He just gave a shout out. He's looking forward to FPU, and I hope you also do this. Sign up to FPU.
And before we get off here, just any questions you may have. I don't want to miss any of this. I know we're at 7:52 right now, and we want to keep this under an hour. But here's what I would say, the practicality of this. I know some of you came on here going, what are the 5 steps you're going to give me to financial freedom?
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you 5 steps to financial freedom. I'm going to tell you there's one step to financial freedom, and it starts with getting more obedient to what God has called us to as Christ followers. If you don't know Jesus, you may be watching this going, this is nuts. Like, what is wrong with these guys? Here's what I'm going to tell you is that I've tried everything outside of God to manage this part of my life, right? I've tried to invest well. It's done okay. I've tried to put money away. It's done okay. I've got a savings account. We've got a checking account. We've got our investment stuff, all those things. But here's what's crazy. Eventually life hits.
Yeah.
Right? You've just come out of a season and it's still in the middle of it, kind of. Life hit. You can't, all you can do is prepare the best you know how. But here's what I know. No matter how good my plan is, unless it's rooted in what God has called me to, it always falls short. It's always fallen short. Every time I've tried to do it outside the confines of God, I'm stressed, I'm worried, and I don't know what I'm going to do. The closer I get to God, the faster it gets. I can't explain it other than God. The faster it gets better financially, and it doesn't mean I'm making more money or I have more money. It just means all of a sudden I'm worried way less about controlling my money, and letting my money control me, and I control it for the kingdom. And there's a big difference in those two things, and we're going to unpack some of that this weekend as well.
Well, that's great. I look forward to it. I hope you all have a great weekends.
Yeah.
I hope you have a great weekend. This was fun. This was good.
Actually, we were talking before we went live. Our next series is a relationship series called I Wish. And actually, one of the weeks of that series is I wish sex wasn't an issue. So the next one of these, we may just talk about sex. Now, would you guys watch that? Let us know down in the comments. I bet you would. So let us know. We may do a relationship one of these next month where we talk about marriage, where we talk about sex, we talk about singleness, we talk about all those things. If you would like that, let us know, because I think that would be... Some of you guys are like, wait, yep, we're going to watch that. Yes, we're in. So we may do these periodically throughout the year and with our series. And if this is something you find valuable, let us know. But we just want to have conversations.
Yes.
We're not here to tell you how. We're here to have the conversation to get us there. So
we're excited about it.
Anything else, Joey?
That's it.
Hey, you guys have a great night. Have a great weekend. If you live in our area, please show up this weekend. Be here 9 or 10:30 service right here. If you join us online or you don't have a church home and you don't live here but you want to be part of Christ Church, do us a favor. Log in with us. Go to live.ourchristchurch.com or on Facebook. You can follow our Facebook page or you can follow our YouTube channel. Then you can join us at 8:50 or 10:20. We go live there. We would love to see you this weekend. But thanks for joining us tonight, Joey. Get better. We'll see you this weekend. Have a great one. We out.